What if your entire life could change in just 3 days? Not because your circumstances changed, not because the economy shifted, but because you changed the way you talk to yourself. You see, we talk to ourselves more than anyone else talks to us. The problem? Most people are having the wrong conversation with the most important person in their life, themselves. Imagine a seed planted in dry, cracked soil. It struggles to push through, but every day the sun beats down without mercy and the wind mocks its efforts. If the soil could speak, what would it say? You'll never make it. You're too small. The odds are against you. The seed would wither before it ever got a chance. But if that same soil was rich, nurtured, and whispered instead, keep going. The light is just above. You were made to grow. That seed, that's exactly what we do to ourselves. We become that dry, critical soil, feeding ourselves toxic words that strip us of our strength before we even begin. The truth is, most people are not defeated by the world. They're defeated by their own inner voice. They talk to themselves in ways they would never speak to a friend, a child, or even a stranger. They turn every mistake into a weapon, every delay into a sentence, every flaw into a label. I'm not smart enough. I should have done better. I'll probably fail again. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, heavy, drained. But now imagine if just for 3 days you flipped the script. What if instead of being your worst critic, you became your own coach? Not a cheerleader who just claps, but a coach who knows how to speak truth with power, who knows how to say, yes, that was tough, but you're tougher, or that wasn't your best, but your best is still coming. Like a compass that doesn't lie, but still points you forward. Let's use an object as a metaphor, a mirror. A mirror doesn't argue, doesn't judge. It reflects what's there. But even a mirror, when broken, distorts reality. And when you speak to yourself from a broken inner voice, you distort who you really are. You start to believe you're less than what you were made to be. But a clean mirror, one that's aligned, purposeful, accurate, shows both your cracks and your beauty. It says, yes, you've got work to do, but you're still worthy. That's the voice of a coach. Think of a GPS. If you take the wrong turn, it doesn't say, you idiot, why'd you mess up again? It calmly recalculates and says, rerouting. That's what your inner voice needs to sound like. Precise, kind, focused on getting you back on track, not beating you up for taking a detour. This shift doesn't mean ignoring your flaws or pretending everything's perfect. It means speaking life into your progress. It means telling yourself, you're not behind, you're being prepared. It means reminding yourself, you've survived worse and you're still standing. That means you're stronger than your situation. These are not just words, they are the seeds of confidence. When spoken consistently, they grow into unshakable belief. You are in conversation with yourself all day long. Whether you realize it or not, your thoughts are speaking and your spirit is listening. If you let criticism lead, it will sabotage your energy, your dreams, your identity. But if you lead with encouragement, if you become your own coach, your own advocate, everything shifts. You'll start showing up differently. You'll push through resistance. You'll think clearer, act bolder, and grow faster. So talk to yourself like this, like someone worth fighting for, worth believing in, because you are. You've just forgotten. And maybe all it takes is 3 days of intentional self-talk to remember who you were before the world taught you to doubt it. Let that inner voice be your strength, not your silence. Let it build, not break, because your words create your world, and it's time to build something worth living in. Most people spend the majority of their mental energy looking backward. They replay mistakes like broken records, analyze past failures with microscopic precision, and wear their regrets like invisible weights. They talk to themselves in a language shaped by what was instead of what can be. I should have done better. I always mess this up. This is just how I've always been. The problem with that kind of self-talk is that it anchors you to your past even when your future is calling for something new. It keeps your identity locked in an old version of yourself that no longer serves you. But what if, for just a few days, you spoke not from your memory, but from your vision? What if you started affirming not just where you've been, but where you're going? When you begin to declare your destiny out loud, even before you see the results, something changes. You give your mind a new direction. You stop rehearsing limitations and start rehearsing possibility. This doesn't mean ignoring the past. It means not letting it have the final word. The past can inform you, but it should not define you. Just because you've been stuck before doesn't mean you'll stay stuck. Just because you failed once or even 100 times doesn't mean success isn't on the horizon. But your words have to shift from "why did I do that" to "here's who I'm becoming." From "I always screw this up" to "I'm learning how to win." That shift in language is subtle, but it's powerful. Think of a compass. Its entire function is to point to true north, no matter where you are, whether you're lost in a forest or drifting at sea. The compass doesn't care about where you've been. It only points to where you can go. But you have to look at it. You have to trust its direction. Your words work the same way. When you speak your future, you're pointing your internal compass toward purpose, possibility, and progress. But when you speak only of your past, you're just walking in circles. Another example, a blueprint. A blueprint isn't a record of what's already been built. It's a declaration of what will be. An architect doesn't say, "Here's what we built 5 years ago, let's just do that again." No, they say, "Here's the vision, here's what we're constructing now." Your words are like verbal blueprints. Every time you say, "I'm becoming more focused," "I am walking into abundance," or "I'm preparing for the opportunities I can't yet see," you're designing a structure your future self can live in. But here's the key. You must speak it before you see it. Too many people wait until the evidence shows up before they start talking positively. But speaking to your future means being bold enough to say it's mine, even when your current situation says otherwise. It means declaring strength while you still feel weak. It means affirming abundance while your account is empty. It means choosing faith talk over fear talk, vision over history. When you only talk about what has already happened, you stay tethered to a version of yourself that can't grow. But when you speak about where you're going, you begin to rise. You begin to believe, and belief births momentum. So if you want to change your life, don't just look at where you've been. Speak to where you're going. Let your words become the compass and the blueprint. Let them lead the way forward. Your future is listening. Give it something worth following. Most people try to change their lives by changing what they do. They chase new habits, set goals, make lists, and push themselves to act differently. But the truth is, action follows identity. You don't behave your way into becoming, you become and then you behave accordingly. Before lasting change happens on the outside, a powerful shift must happen on the inside. That shift starts with how you speak to yourself about who you are. Think about how many times you've said something like, "I need to be more focused," or "I'll try to be more consistent." Sounds reasonable, right? But those statements come from a place of uncertainty. They suggest that focus or consistency is something outside of you, something you're chasing, not something you already carry. That kind of language keeps your identity unstable. And when identity is unstable, action becomes inconsistent. That's why people start strong and fade out. They act like someone they don't believe they are. Now, flip the script. Instead of saying, "I'll try to be more focused," say, "I am a focused person." Instead of, "I'm working on being confident," say, "Confidence is natural to me." The words might feel like a stretch at first, but that's exactly the point. You're not lying to yourself. You're speaking from your future self, the version of you you're stepping into. Because here's the truth. Identity isn't discovered by accident. It's declared on purpose. Take a simple object, a thermostat. A thermometer reacts to the environment. It reflects the current temperature. But a thermostat sets the temperature. It doesn't care if the room is cold. It declares what the room will be. It doesn't wait for the surroundings to change. It initiates the change. Your identity must function like a thermostat. You don't describe how things are, you declare how things will be, starting with who you are. If you keep reacting to your old habits, your past, your feelings, you're just a thermometer. But when you speak identity before behavior, you begin to set the tone for your life. This kind of self-talk isn't about hype, it's about alignment. When you affirm your identity first, your actions follow naturally because your brain starts searching for evidence to prove what you've declared. That's how belief works. It builds structure around the words you repeat most. So if you're constantly saying, I'm bad with money, or I'm not good under pressure, don't be surprised when your actions reinforce those beliefs. But if you say, I am excellent with money, or pressure brings out my best, your mind starts building a path to support that truth. You begin to act like the person you already believe yourself to be. Even if you don't feel like it yet, affirming identity first sends a message to your subconscious that change isn't just possible, it's already happening. You're not waiting for transformation to arrive, you're walking in it. That's how momentum builds. Not from wishful thinking, but from consistent self-declaration that reshapes your mindset, your choices, and your outcomes. So don't start with what you want to do. Start with who you are. Say it out loud. Say it often. Say it like it's already true. Because that's how truth begins. Identity before action, always. Speak it, believe it, act it, become it. Fear always speaks first. It shows up uninvited, whispering doubts, worst-case scenarios, and reasons why you're not ready. It doesn't need evidence, it just needs your attention. The moment you decide to do something bold, meaningful, or new, fear tries to fill the space. But here's the truth. Fear isn't your enemy, it's your cue. It's your signal that something powerful is on the other side. And the only way to move through that moment is not by thinking your way out of fear, but by speaking your way through it. Most people try to wait until they feel confident to speak with confidence. They want proof before they make the promise. But confidence doesn't come first, declaration does. The moment fear speaks, you have to respond out loud, not in your head, not in silence, but with your voice. Why? Because your mind may hear fear, but your spirit responds to what your mouth declares. You can't think your way out of fear because fear lives in thoughts. You have to use a different weapon. Words cut through thoughts. Faith talk interrupts fear like light interrupts darkness. It doesn't argue with fear, it overrides it. The second you say, I am not afraid, I am equipped, your brain starts to shift. You're not pretending there's no fear. You're reminding yourself that fear doesn't get to drive. Saying, I don't have to feel ready to be ready, tells your nervous system that action isn't dependent on emotion, it's built on belief. Speaking these words trains your mouth to lead your mind instead of the other way around. To understand this better, think about an alarm clock. An alarm clock doesn't care whether you're tired, overwhelmed, or cozy under the covers. When the time comes, it sounds off. That's what your words must become, your internal alarm clock that wakes up your courage the moment fear tries to lull it back to sleep. Fear will tell you to hit snooze on your goals, but faith talk rings louder and says, get up. You got work to do. You were made for that. Another example is a fire extinguisher. It doesn't argue with the fire. It doesn't study the fire or try to understand it. It simply responds immediately with something designed to neutralize the flame. That's what faithful words do. Fear is the fire, but your voice is the extinguisher. You don't let the fire grow. You don't watch it consume your energy, time, and momentum. The moment it appears, you respond with power. You say, I was made for pressure. I have what I need right now. What I carry is bigger than what I fear. You don't need perfect conditions to speak powerfully. You just need consistency. Over time, your voice becomes your shield. It becomes your strategy because you realize fear never really disappears. It just gets quieter the more you speak back. And eventually it stops leading. Faith doesn't come from waiting. It comes from hearing, and sometimes the most powerful voice you can hear is your own. When you speak faith, your ears hear it, your body feels it, and your mind aligns with it. You're not just repeating positive words, you're setting the tone of your life. Fear wants the microphone, don't give it the stage. Take it back, interrupt fear with truth. Lead with your voice, because if your words can shape your world, then let them build one where fear no longer rules. Gratitude is one of the most underestimated forces of transformation. It's often viewed as something soft, sentimental, or reserved for quiet moments at the end of a good day. But true gratitude is not passive. It's a power tool. It doesn't just acknowledge what's good, it multiplies it. When used with intention, gratitude shifts your focus, rewires your mind, and elevates your energy even in the middle of struggle. And it's not something you practice only when life feels easy. It's something you choose to speak, especially when life feels heavy. Most people wait until something changes to feel thankful. They want results before they offer appreciation. But gratitude doesn't follow change, it creates it. When you start speaking words of thanks, not just for what you have, but for where you're headed, you activate a different frequency. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles, growth instead of delay, lessons instead of losses. Gratitude turns frustration into fuel and waiting into preparation, and allows you to stand in a storm and still say, I'm grateful for what this is building in me. Consider the way a lighthouse functions. It doesn't control the storm, it doesn't calm the waves, it doesn't change the weather, but it stands steady, sending out light in every direction, a beacon of clarity in the chaos. Gratitude works the same way. It doesn't remove the challenge, but it shines through it. It reminds you of what's still working, what's still possible, and what's still coming. That clarity keeps you grounded when everything around you feels uncertain. It keeps you centered in your mission when the noise of doubt tries to pull you off course. Now think of a magnifying glass. Whatever you place it over becomes bigger, not because it changes, but because your perspective changes. When you focus on problems, they expand. When you focus on setbacks, they feel heavier. But when you speak gratitude, even over something small, it grows. It becomes more present in your awareness. You begin to notice more things worth celebrating. And suddenly your mind becomes a place of abundance instead of scarcity. That is not positive thinking. It's powerful thinking. Speaking gratitude out loud each day is a discipline, not a mood. You don't wait to feel thankful to say, I'm grateful for this breath, this challenge, this opportunity to grow. You lead with that declaration. Your voice becomes a reminder to your brain that there is always something to stand on, even when it feels like the ground is shaking. And the most beautiful part is that gratitude makes room for more. When you thank life for what you have and who you're becoming, you create space for increase mentally, emotionally, and even materially. Now, gratitude also has momentum. When you end your day saying, here's one thing I did right, instead of replaying all your missteps, you wake up the next day with a clearer mind and a stronger sense of progress. You carry that energy into your next decision, your next conversation, your next opportunity. Over time, gratitude becomes the rhythm of your day, not something you reach for, but something you walk in. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about choosing your perspective. Problems will always exist, but so will purpose. Gratitude aligns you with that purpose. It reminds you that your journey is not just about where you're going, but who you're becoming on the way there. Speak it daily, live in it fully, because the person who practices gratitude, even in the grind, becomes unstoppable. Gratitude doesn't just change how you feel, it changes who you are, and that shift makes everything else possible. But life doesn't change just because time passes. Life changes when your mindset upgrades. And your mindset shifts when you start talking to yourself like a winner, not a worrier. So for the next 3 days, don't wait for motivation, be your own motivation. Don't wait for permission, give yourself permission to win. And when those 3 days are over, you won't want to stop because you'll feel what it's like to become unstoppable. Talk to yourself like a champion.